My name is Reed Yobe. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about radio stations in Zimbabwe. I want to talk to you about radio stations in Zimbabwe. I am a Zimbabwean currently residing in South Africa, and as I live here in South Africa, I see what's happening here and I compare with what's happening in Zimbabwe. And I kind of feel like the radio stations in Zimbabwe are letting down Zimbabweans. Yet, Zimbabweans are expected to pay radio licenses and they are expected to do well. Radio stations play a significant role in promoting musicians, providing exposure, credibility, and a platform to reach a wider audience. They can offer curated listening experiences, introduce listeners to new artists, and build relationships that can enhance future collaboration opportunities. But then my question is this: is it local music that you're promoting as radio stations in Zimbabwe? Is it local music that you are promoting? Listen, even though I am living in the diaspora, I do have access to what's happening in the country. I've got an app on my phone and I listen to Zimbabwean radio stations, either on my app on the phone or on my laptop on Radio Garden. Listen, as I live here in South Africa, I do see what's happening here. I also listen to local radio stations. I'm talking about South African radio stations. I do listen to them. And if I'm to compare, I see that there is a lot that Zimbabwe, that radio stations in Zimbabwe needs to do for local musicians. What's helping a number of musicians in Zimbabwe is social media. Can you just try to imagine what would happen to Zimbabwean musicians? Can you just try to imagine what would happen to them if there was no Facebook, if there was no YouTube, if there was no Instagram and TikTok? Can you just try to imagine what was going to happen to them if they were to depend solely on Zimbabwean radio stations? It is the local artists that you must promote. Ever since I came to South Africa, the only musician that I've had, the only music that I had from Zimbabwe was by Oliver Mtukudzi. Ever since I came here, and the times that I've heard Oliver Mtukudzi's music being played on the air here in South Africa, they are countable. They are countable. And I've got no problem with that. I like the fact that South African radio stations play nothing but South African music. Well, they do play music by foreign musicians, But majority of the stuff that is being played on air here in South Africa, I might be wrong as far as the percentages are concerned, but in my opinion, is around about 90%. 90%, in my opinion, that's what they play. 90% is about South African music. But if you will tune into Zimbabwean radio stations, you can go for an hour or two without hearing anything local. And they are busy playing South African music, they are playing European music, they are playing American music. There is nothing wrong with music from those countries. But remember, there are people that are working. Music is work. These are artists that are working hard to feed their families. These are artists that are struggling to be recognized. They are competing with foreign music in their own land. Being a musician is hard in Zimbabwe because you struggle for recognition when it should be your right to be recognized if you do something. Please don't quote me wrong. Please don't quote me wrong. I am not saying playing music by foreign musicians is wrong. But what I'm saying is that play local, more of local music. Let's have something about 90% of it. Remember, there are people that are living in the rural areas who cannot afford Wi-Fi, who cannot afford even to buy data so that they can go or visit maybe some sites on the internet to listen to local musicians. Do you know, I didn't know about Selma Mtukuzi. I didn't know that Oliver Mtukuzi has got a daughter that is playing music, that is also into music. I only got to know about her when I was here in South Africa. But in Zimbabwe, nothing is being said about her, was being said about her when I was there. Listen, I am not saying these radio stations in Zimbabwe are not promoting local artists, but what I'm saying is that what you're doing is not enough. What you're doing is not enough. You have some programs on air where you play maybe it's a full hour of playing music by foreign musicians. A full hour. And come to South Africa, you will never experience something like that. I have never experienced something like that. There was never a day where an hour was dedicated to playing Zimbabwean music. And I'm not saying they should, because it's wrong. It would be wrong for South Africa to do that. And if ever South Africa is to know about Zimbabwean musicians, they must trend in Zimbabwe first. You cannot expect South Africa to promote Zimbabwean musicians when they don't even know about them. They want to know what's trending in Zimbabwe. So my plea is to Zimbabwe radio stations, please help the local artists. They are struggling and they need your help. I was listening to this other radio in Matabeleland, and they were playing old South African music that here in South Africa they are not even playing anymore. And I'm asking myself, why can't that time be dedicated also to playing local music. Do you know that? I think that's the reason why on Ndebele musicians, when they want to venture into music, they start singing in Shona. Life is difficult for them because you're playing, especially in Ndebele land, all the music that they're playing is South African music. So Ndebele land is just a small province in Zimbabwe, and they have to compete with the whole country of South Africa, because the Ndebeles can relate with South African music because they do understand. They do understand, even if it's Xhosa or if it's Ndebele or if it's Zulu, they do understand. So there's this young boy or girl from the ghetto who is just trying to rise as far as music is concerned, and they want to record an album, and you have to compete with Ringo, because in Zimbabwe they're playing Ringo. Or maybe you're a gospel musician, then you have to compete with Rebecca Malope or Sipho Makabane. You can't stand that. They end up singing in Shona. Sanima Kalima is one example. He sings in Shona, but Sanima Kalima is in Ndebele. And he can sing in Ndebele, but then you will have to compete with South African musicians. So this is my plea. Please play more of Zimbabwean music. Don't worry about what's happening outside the country. If people are on Facebook, people are on TikTok, people are on Instagram, they can access by themselves what's happening in South Africa. People are on YouTube, they can access by themselves what's happening in South Africa, and leave the local radio stations to promote local music. If Jonathan Moyo had not intervened that year when he introduced Law 75, when he said he wants all the radio stations to play 75% local content, if he had not done that at that time, it was even worse. So this is my plea. Even that 75% local content, I doubt if it's happening. Because whenever I tune into the radio stations, what you hear, listen, I'm in South Africa right now, and when I tune into Zimbabwean radio stations, I'm expecting to hear, to get to know what's happening in Zimbabwe as far as music is concerned. But then when I tune into Zimbabwean radio stations, then I hear you playing South African music. I have enough of that. I know which radio station to tune into if I want to listen to what's happening in South Africa. And I even know the channels that I can visit on YouTube or maybe Facebook or Instagram or TikTok if I want to know what's happening in South Africa. So please, I beg you, may you please play local music. I hope this helps someone. My name is Reed Yobe.